another hiss, the Fleet Lord poked at the control stud once more. Now the threatening cloud from the nuclear blast vanished. In a way, the image that replaced it was even more menacing. It was a satellite photograph of a base the race had established in the region of the SSSR, known to the locals as Siberia, a place whose frigid climate even the big uglies found appalling. The mutineers still persist in their rebellion against duly constituted authority, Atvar said heavily. Worse, the commandants of the two nearest bases have urged against committing their males to suppress the rebels, for fear they would go over to them instead.
This is truly alarming,
Corell said with another emphatic cough.
If we choose males from a distant air base to bomb the mutineers out of existence, then, will it truly solve the problem?
I don't know, Atvar said. But what I really don't know, by the Emperor. He cast down his eyes for a moment at the mention of his sovereign, is how the mutiny could have happened in the first place. Subordination and integration into the greater scheme of the race as a whole are drilled into our males from hatchlinghood. How could they have overthrown them? Now Corell sighed.
Fighting on this world corrodes males' moral fibre as badly as its ocean water corrodes equipment. We are not fighting the war that was planned before we set out from home, and that by itself is plenty to disorient a good many males.
This is also truth, Atvar admitted. The leader of the mutineers, a lowly land cruiser driver if you can imagine such a thing, is known to have lost at least 3 different sets of crew males, 2, including those with whom he served at this base, to Tosavite action, and the 3rd grouping arrested and disciplined as ginger tasters.
By his wild pronouncements, this Usmak sounds like a ginger taster himself,
Corell said. Threatening to call in the Soviets to his aid if we attack him, you mean? Atvar said. We ought to take him up on that. If he thinks they would help him out of sheer benevolence, the Tosavite herb truly has addled his wits. If it weren't for the equipment he could pass on to the SSSR, I would say we should welcome him to go over to that set of big uglies.
Given the situation as it actually is, Exalted Fleet Lord, what course shall we pursue?
Corell's interrogative cough sounded vaguely accusing, or maybe Atvar's conscience was twisting his hearing diaphragms. I don't know yet, the Fleet Lord said unhappily. When in doubt, his first instinct, typical for a male, was to do nothing. Letting the situation come nearer to hatching so you could understand it more fully worked well on Home, and also on Rabatev 2 and Hallis 1, the other inhabited worlds the race controlled. But waiting against the Tosavites often proved even worse than proceeding on incomplete knowledge. The big uglies did things. They didn't fret about long-term consequences. Take atomic weapons. Those helped them in the short run. If they devastated Tosev 3 in the process, well, so what? Atvar couldn't leave it at so what. The colonization fleet was on the way from Home. He couldn't very well present it with a world he'd rendered uninhabitable in the process of overcoming the big uglies. Yet he couldn't fail to respond either, and so found himself in the unpleasant position of reacting to what the Tosavites did, instead of making them react to him. The mutineers had no nuclear weapons, and weren't big uglies. He could have afforded to wait them out, if they hadn't threatened to yield their base to the SSSR. With the Tosavites involved, you couldn't just sit and watch. The big uglies were never content to let things simmer. They threw them in a microwave oven and brought them to a boil as fast as they could. When Atvar didn't say anything more, Corell tried to prod him.
Exalted Fleet Lord, you can't be contemplating genuine negotiations with these rebellious and revolting males. Their demands are impossible. Not just amnesty and transfer to a warmer